Well, hello there, traders and investors. It's LA here, and this is your daily NeoTA wrap. Take a look at these markets on a neoclassical basis. That is, we look at supply and demand on the charts, and we use that information to make decisions about trend, about which way to point, when to get in, when to get out. It's it's talked about in my books. It's what I've done for a long time. It works pretty darn well. If you don't understand what I'm talking about, if you really want to learn, you can start with the books. That's the first place to start. Just pop over, get yourself a book. This is the one that sets out the model. This is the one that expands upon that. And, there's not a lot of new literature out there that really breaks new ground. And, I believe I've done that. I was actually looking back over the book last night for some other reasons and remembering some of the groundbreaking stuff that I did with the Neoclassical model. If you want to proceed past that, then you join the community and you become a mentoring program where you link up with somebody one-on-one that understands how this works and how to do it. And that's how you really learn how Neoclassical works, how you can better time the markets. A lot of people say you can't time. No, you can't time 100% of the time. You can't hardly do anything 100% of the time. But you can take your 50-50 chance and you can move it up to around 70. And that's on a regular going basis. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you don't believe what I'm talking about, just ask some of the people that are in the program. I'll send you some names if you want. You just drop me an email. Let's look at the markets. I was focused on what was happening after hours. You had Google after hours lost about 30 points or so. Facebook came out of break even. The other big three in that group, Microsoft last week lost some points on its earnings, and what was the other one? Netflix. Netflix actually had a nice big spike. Matter of fact, let's just take a quick look at them and see what they look like as a group. Apple is the big dog. That one comes out next week. So these are the much heralded FANG stocks. I think Jim Cramer put that tag on them some 4 or 5 years ago, it seems like. Netflix was the first one to come out and to say what they had done, and they got a nice big pop off of it. And so you can see that big pop on earnings here. The last time they had earnings, same thing. They got a retrace back then, and then eventually just took off and continued to go. Well, here it is this time. Not much of a retrace. They just pushed higher inside bar today, but that's a big gain. I mean, you went from, 161, and you're sitting at 187. Well, you tacked on 26 on 16. That seems like about 12-13% if I'm estimating correctly. Tonight you had Google and Facebook. Facebook is going to be flat tomorrow. So Facebook didn't get any kind of move off of this. They've already had their run up. I wouldn't be surprised to see Facebook actually sell back down tomorrow. Google was the other one. Google had its run. It came back up and actually tested the breakdown top. And this is a classic thing that happens over and over, right, where you'll see these things go right back up to the top, test into them. Today it hit 106 or 1006. 10.055 was the top, falls back, has volume, but tomorrow going to trade down. It's a little like a 960 or so after hours, so you're down in this range. You're going to come back down, test these lows. Right, it's a big range. It went down, it's going to come back and try it again. Microsoft was last week. Microsoft also had a nice big run up. All these had a big run up into earnings. Microsoft sells back down off earnings, nothing major. Microsoft's just coming back in to do a bullish retest regen. And I pointed out Citigroup last week saying, hey, that's where you would buy it. Microsoft's the same. You want to buy the retest regen. First trip, or actually it's the second trip back, so expect it to come into the bottom part of it. This bar here is the one I'd be focused on. That top is 72. That's where I'd expect it to try and get to. Next week is Apple. Apple's the big dog. This is the one that carries the most weighting. This is the one everybody looks at. Apple has the same thing Google has. Breakdown bar up here at the top. Is it going to climb up there into that? Well, they have a way of doing it, and right now this one's trying to do exactly that. Top of that bar at 15519. That's if it does, that would be consistent with the way Apple trades, and that is Apple usually runs up into earnings and then sells down. Why am I talking about all these? Well, these five stocks, right? They carry the bulk of the weighting in the NDX and the NASDAQ, and they have a pretty good weighting in the S&P 500. These have been the drivers all year long. This big move that we've seen, the pause, the move, the pause, and now the move again, these were the guys driving it. If they don't go, the rest of the market has a hard time going. Now, we did see some rotation in May, June when they took a break. They went into financials, went into healthcare, and those carried us because they have a high enough weighting as well. But if these big dogs want to take a break, then this market's going to continue to be range bound. Speaking of the market, let's take a look at it. Let's see what we did today. So a little selling after the bell on Google News, and you didn't get any makeup for it on Facebook, so it's going to be some pressure on the NDX tomorrow. But let's take a look at the charts and see how they're lined up here. So the S&P 500. So today, a little bit over, a little bit under. Volume is about the same, really nothing. Okay, so what does this have? It has this nice swing point high back here. It's been tested one time. Just like I said a second ago, if you come back, you test again, like I was talking about on Microsoft, you probably test into the bottom third of it. The buy is down there if and when it comes back. And so that's the S&P 500. Looking at it over here, it's done exactly what you would like, and that is that it's left the retest region up here and it hasn't tested it yet. And so the first trip back is a buy. Where is it a buy? It's a buy in the top third. What's the top third? Well, the top third in this particular case looks like about 2391. So if we go back to the daily and pop that one back up, 2291 is, guess where? Oops, oh, it's not 2391, is right back into this test, right? And so 2391, actually it's 2391 is way down here. Did I look at that right? Top is 2423, yeah, about 2391. Let me pull that back up. So it's deeper than I thought. So your first test probably gets bought, and then if you get the farther pullback, 2391. That's interesting, because the interesting part of that to me is you got all these swing point lows hanging around there. So yeah, if it comes down into there, you could get the faster move into these bars here if that's what it wants to do. But that's a long way away. It's not even worth thinking about at this point. So S&P looks pretty strong. NASDAQ, NDX, they've been very strong. They both hit new highs today, and there was no sign today that they're going to pull back. If I'm looking at the pullback tomorrow, I got to expect that they're going to try and buy it right here, which is where the gap away was. And so if you're looking at it there, if you're looking at the NDX, I imagine the NDX is set up the same way. Let's take a quick look at it and see. Nah, not quite the same. It's going to be back into this bar on the NDX. So the top of this bar, 5880. So that's where I'd look for it. That's where I'd look for the pullback to try. When you got an index, a sector, a stock that's been very, very strong, and if you look at the weekly, this has been very, very strong. You got the one consolidation, and now you got the push out of that consolidation. The question that should be on your mind is this really going to leg higher, or is it going to fall back into this range? Falls back into the range, then you can test the whole range. And so right now the real question is, which one is it going to do? You're going to find out fairly quickly, because it's going to try and come back, and that's where you're going to find out if these buyers want to buy it or not. Top of the range is right here, 5897, so right around 5900, and so that will be the test tomorrow. If you fall back in it, you stay in it for a bar or two, and then you can come back and test a lot more to the downside, and there's a long way down. Last thing here is Russell. So the Russell had the only one that was given a signal to try and turn. Today it doesn't under over, not much volume, much volume difference, I should say. It's a bullish retest regen within 6 bars. Usually that says you're going to test the bottom third. And so that would say back down into here. So that looks to me like that has farther to go. I think you're going to see these markets try and trade back a little bit lower tomorrow. And I think the real test will be the NDX. That's where you want to watch it. I'd watch two things. I'd watch to see if Facebook wants to trade down versus up or sideways. And I'd want to see if Google gets bought and pushed back up. And another one on the other side of it is Apple. Is Apple going to continue to try and climb? And I think Apple is the one that probably has the most juice. of all of them because Apple hasn't reported yet, and so that's has the most weighting. Okay, so tomorrow, some sort of pressure in the morning off of what's happened here, and just watch those 3 stocks, and that'll probably give you a good tell on what's happening during the day. I'll leave it at that. Have a great one. Take care. I'll see you next time. Good night.